Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. Hope everyone had a happy and safe 4th of July, doing what Americans do, partying, drinking beer, cooking hot dogs and hamburgers and stuffing your face. Apparently, the New York Times, not a fan of 4th of July, not a fan of independence. And they tweeted out a video.
Yeah.
And the video, let me just give you the headline, and then we can kind of discuss it, and we've got some clips to show you. But the video was, "The myth of America as the greatest nation on earth is at best outdated and at worst wildly inaccurate. If you look at data, the U.S. is really just okay." Just your starting thoughts on that, Glenn.
Well, any country that allows people to, do fireworks and...
What happened to your hand?
Oh, we were celebrating 4th of July. And, so this drives me out of my mind. What are they doing? What are they doing? What is the one thing required that you must have to survive? I mean, not talking food, not talking water. Mentally. Hope. Every day, these people are cramming despair down our throats. Every day, they are trying to tell us that you're nothing. Why do you think the identitarian movement is so popular over in Europe? Because they've been told in Sweden, you're not special. Everybody else, those people in Africa, they've got a rock and a stick. That's culture for you over there. That's great culture. Yours sucks. It's meaningless. It has nothing. Grab a rock and a stick from these people. Wait. The rock and the stick might be great, and they might do wonderful things at a dance around the campfire with the rock and the stick. But what is my culture? Why is my culture garbage? And that's what's happening to us. We are being told, and it will end exactly the same way as it's going to end in Europe. It is going to be bloodshed. You are headed towards real problems in Europe because they don't have another option. They have fascism or communism. We have freedom. We have freedom. Now, the left doesn't understand that, and many people on the right don't understand that. But it's called constitutionalism, a constitutional republic where our mission statement is the opening of the Declaration of Independence. And that opening is the most inspirational thing ever written by any group of people that got together. Name something where this many people got together and said something that great, that aspirational.
Just We Are the World. That's the only thing I can come up with.
Well, yeah, but Michael Jackson's dead.
Oh, yeah.
And the boss,
Glenn, you mentioned freedom. They actually had, in their 4-minute or so video, they had some things to say about freedom. Let's take a look.
Turns out a lot of countries have freedoms. And while we boast about them, using our rights is a different story. Only 56% of Americans turn out to vote, while it's closer to 80% in countries like Denmark and Australia.
Oh my
and it's getting worse. This year, America slid on global rankings of corruption and
Stop. I can't take it. Wow, the Swedes, the people in Denmark, they vote more because there's 12 of them.
Exactly. It's a country of 5 million.
Right. And why do people not vote? Because they're told every day your vote doesn't matter. You don't matter. Nothing matters. Why should you vote? They're going to do what they want anyway. Why do you think, New York Times?
Well, I love, too, that, the reason why these other countries have these systems in which they can vote is because we led the way on it, right? It was our design. And yes, they borrowed parts of that system. And I think, too, oddly, when you have a government that controls more of your life, the more important your vote is. I'd like to get to a point where I never had to go vote because I didn't care, because the government was small enough that they didn't affect my life at all. I would love to get to that point. We're not there. So I do go vote. But I mean, when you're in a place like Sweden, well, or you're going to want to vote because there's a lot more at stake.
They do. Everything. By the way, a lot of countries have freedom. Yeah, they do. Like, for instance, New Zealand had the freedom to own a gun. But because we're unique with the Bill of Rights, our freedoms are protected. No other country has that. You can't just take away our rights. We wrote them down.
How much freedom would Denmark and Switzerland and all of these places, France, how much would they had if December 7th, 1941 had never happened and America had not stepped into World War II?
Zero.
And absolutely. It would be...
Not even that. Let's say we did World War II, but then when the communists said, hey, we're going to start, encroaching on people's freedoms, we just said, you know what, it's Europe, no big deal. Have it.
Have at it. If you ask people, you said, okay, let's take America off the table. You're not going to live in America. What country out there on the globe is better that you would prefer to have based on its government, its lifestyle? They're always going to say something like Denmark or Finland or Sweden or something like that. Okay,
all
you're
white
talking
countries.
All white
They
countries.
all love
There's
the all
no
white
diversity,
countries, don't they? All these people that calling us racist all the time are always praying for these all white countries.
You know, it's just like when they were doing the Miss Scotland pageant and they had a picture of all the Scottish ladies who were running, these beautiful ladies, and they said, there's no diversity. It's because it's freaking Scotland. So what are you going to do? There's no African countries that you want to live in better than that. I spent 20 years in and out of Nigeria. I can remember being in Lagos, Nigeria, the biggest city in the nation. You're talking about a nation the size of Texas and Oklahoma put together. Here you are in a city of 10 million driving down the road, and you look over, and there's a lump. It's covered with a members-only jacket. What is that? Oh, it's a dead body in the middle of the city. People have no idea the way the rest of the world works. And I'm paraphrasing. Mark Twain said, nothing destroys prejudice like travel, and nothing destroys travel like prejudice. People have no idea what the world is like outside of the borders of the United States.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, everybody wants to talk about statistics, 56% vote, 80%. There are tens of thousands of immigrants, aliens, detainees, whatever you want to call them, at the southern border. They've never read a single damn statistic. But they know they want to get in here. They know they want to get across that border because for them, it's hope. We can't get a single celebrity to leave.
It's true.
Doesn't it speak to how lazy and entitled and comfortable we are that only 56% of Americans vote?
Yeah, I mean, look.
Like no one's stopping them from doing it. It's just that they're happy in their prividleged country,
I know,
and they don't bother doing it.
I don't want to say this, but one of your freedoms is to not vote.
Yeah.
That's actually part of freedom. If you don't want to vote, you don't have to vote. And I, totally agree, Chad. Like the time to make the argument that America is a crap hole is not in the middle of a migration crisis when everyone is rushing the border so badly we can't even house them. I think they're making their choice with their feet.
And the other thing that really is remarkable to me is you said, where else would you like to go? Let me reverse that. Let me change that. Take America out of the picture. America is over. Okay, let's just say we just collapse. We become a nobody country.
Gilead.
Okay? Which country can stand with freedom without America? Which one? We've already seen what happens to the world when we get weak and wobbly. What happens if we don't exist? There is no freedom. There is no freedom.
Look at Venezuela. You take the third largest economy in the world just a few years back. It is one of the largest reserves on the planet, if not the, of oil reserves that are there. And look at it. It's in shambles. Absolutely. Why? Because of the influx of the control of China and then, of course, socialism and all of these things. It will be a geographical, geopolitical black plague if America suddenly sank to the bottom of the ocean and Al Gore and Ocasio-Cortez had their way and they polar ice caps melted and we all drown. It's going to be whoever's the top of the food chain. They're taking over.
This video also had a little bit to say about poverty and the amount of Americans living in poverty. Watch.
Listen, of course, there's no single way to measure greatness, but one good test is how we rank in the OECD, which is basically a golf club of 36 countries, predominantly wealthy, Western, and democratic. And unlike most golf clubs, this one's got some diversity too. America is the richest country in this club,
and the only
but we're
one
also
lies.
the poorest, with a whopping 18% poverty rate. Closer to Mexico than Western Europe. 12.8 million American children live in poverty. That's almost 1 in 5 of our kids.
Stu, I almost gave you a trigger warning for this one, Stu, because I felt like this one in particular might make your head explode.
Well, first of all, right, the first thing you notice is they say that they measure it on the group of 36 countries, right? So right off the bat, you're putting us in the top 36. Like, there's not 36 countries in the world. There's, what, 194 countries in the world? So right off the bat, you're putting us towards the top of that. The measures of poverty are obviously, like, you know, we've seen how this works. You think that someone that is at our poverty level right now, someone at our poverty level is richer than 85% of the world. So this is someone who's someone we call poor. And of course, these people who are in poverty have things like, you know, 99% of them have electricity, air conditioning, televisions, phones, cars,
yeah.
Like, I mean,
Microwaves.
Poverty it's an easy thing to do because you can go out there and say, well, you know, look, that number's large. First of all, we're also we're a large country, all right? And so, you know, part of that is explained by that. They don't talk about transfers in a lot of those stats. You know, when they create these big government programs, then they don't include them in the numbers, which is always fascinating to me. You know, look, the bottom line is that I think, you know, we see this over and over again. The country, they're saying we're right on the level of Mexico. Then why is everyone from Mexico coming here? Why do they want to get here so bad if poverty is the same here as it is there? It's not. We all know it's not. It's a ridiculous measure, and of course they know this.
If you look at the life, let me tell you a story. Back at the height of the Cold War in the 1980s, this was one of, I think it might have been Gorbachev that did this, but Reagan was coming on strong. And America looked like, wow, they might be able to win this thing. And so they were pulling out all the stops to convince the Russian people, the Soviets, that no, America's really bad. So they did a special on 60 Minutes about poverty in America. And it was tearing down America, and it was tearing down Ronald Reagan. And so the Soviets said, run that. This is their television. This is American television. We're not editing. You wouldn't believe it. It backfired because everybody in Russia went, that's poverty?
Yeah.
I want that. That's exactly what's happening. It's exactly what you're talking about. Go take a poor person in America that's at the poverty line, and then let's go take them and say, here, we're going to take you to Mexico. You want to live like this person who's at their poverty line? Not a chance in hell.
Yeah, and you can't get them there because they got an obesity problem as well. So, I mean, our people in poverty in America are fat. Yeah. It's crazy the way we look at this thing. Yeah. And by the way, that's why there's such a so-called border crisis in terms of how it's being defined now with these so-called conditions in these detention centers, because they are comparing those conditions that we're accustomed to in first world America you can't compare it to that. I put pictures of me in Nicaragua last year, and I'm at these people's house, and they're like, oh, you want to just leave them on these dirt floors? They're proud of their freaking house. Yeah. This is their home. This is what they know.
Yeah. And it's been well publicized, these migration centers. Yeah. But people keep coming.
Right.
They know the migration centers they're going to. They know the concentration camps they're going to, as AOC would say.
I think it was it El Salvador or Honduras, the president this week, came out and said, it was at El Salvador. You know who's responsible for that father and child dying in the water of the Rio Grande River? Me, us, we are. Because we're obviously not capable of keeping our people safe, keeping our people employed and fed. We're responsible. Well, amen, brother.
Yeah.
I'd help. I don't know if that could be a dirty dictator. I have no idea.
I like that attitude.
I like the attitude.
Hey, I feel sorry for AOC. She's got perfectly good IKEA furniture leaning up against the wall. It's never been put together. She's living in poverty.
Back in a minute with more. I mean, that is a great point. Like, we're really complaining that we're giving these migrants shampoo. Where they came from, like, that's well, the New York Times, they were not done. They were not done at all with their dissing of everything American. Listen to what they had to say about comparing us to developing countries. And I just want to give a warning for anyone who suffers from high blood pressure or anything like that. You need to make sure that you've taken your meds today. Trust me on this one. Watch.
It's gotten to a point where I think there are specific times and places where you can confuse America for a developing country, as elections are tampered with, water can't be drunk from taps, citizens don't trust uniformed officers, infrastructure is crumbling, and where a dual system is emerging when public services are for sale for the highest bidder. You see this in countries like Pakistan or Nigeria, where the rich don't worry about the sad state of electricity or police because, well, they have generators and private security. Or in America, where the Kardashians rent their own firefighting force.
We were fortunate enough and blessed enough, and I know that not everyone has this luxury available to them, but we were able to get private firefighters.
When health, education, and safety are increasingly privatized or driven by privilege, the truth is, how great America is really depends on how rich you are.
Oh my good God almighty.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Too much.
A lot to unpack there.
Private firefighters, what happens in other countries is just the entire city burns down and no one shows up to knock the fire out. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. Private firefighters, look, the idea that people who are wealthy can afford more things is common in every single country on earth. It is exactly, the only place you won't get that is this Marxist utopia that, by the way, has never existed.
And that's because no one's rich, everyone's poor.
Right, and yeah, exactly. So you just have equality, and it sucks for everybody.
Everyone's equally poor.
You point to one, like Flint is a great example. They bring this up all the time. Look at this, they don't care about the poor. It's Flint, Michigan. What they were doing in Flint, and they screwed this up. Yes, government screwed this up, but they were trying to improve the water system and save the money of the people who you were calling poor. The taxpayers of the city. Now, they didn't do it well, and yes, government screws up all the time. They've now, gotten that back under control. Our infrastructure is crumbling. How many freaking times do I have to hear that? Everyone just says it like as if it's true. I mean, I just don't. There are areas.
There is always construction, though.
Yeah,
everywhere I'm going, but that's because the roads are being improved
and
constantly.
built, right?
Yeah, we're sitting right here in the middle of DFW, man. They're going to be on this thing for 30 more years on these highways. It's as long as I've been here. I've been in this area for 20 years,
and the roads are fine. They're just improving it and making them better.
It's good here. The economy's been good here. Like there are areas, of course. But again, I asked this question yesterday. As compared to what?
Right.
What? Like as compared to what? You're going to tell me? I was over in France last year. Sure, they've got some nice places. They've also got a bunch of crap holes, just like us. Like we've got areas that are good and areas that are bad. They have freaking streets that aren't wide enough for your freaking car.
Right.
At least we can fit our freaking cars here.
Right.
Every country has issues like this. Every country has problems. Again, best doesn't mean perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And capitalism has done more to lift people out of poverty than any other economic system that's ever existed on the planet. I get that. And yes, we can sit here and pick out the flaws in America. We could do that all day long, but that's that's our family. And I still look at America as divided as we are. It is the grace of God and the hand of God over this nation that has kept us in the situation that we are. That is a very blessed situation. We're blessed to be born here. I mean, you won the lottery by being born in America, or at least getting the opportunity to be an American citizen if you weren't born here. I understand why people south of the border want to get in here. I understand why asylum seekers want to come here. And look, if I live down there in impoverished situations too, I've seen them, I've been there. I've seen what it causes. I'd be doing everything to get my family here too. But the reason I would be doing it is because of the hope that America brings. Let me tell you something. Whenever they signed the Declaration of Independence, those men were signing a death warrant. They signed their life away. John Hancock came up there, and that's why his signature is the biggest one front and center. He says, screw it. If we lose this thing, hang me first. So these guys knew what they were laying on the line. We have the blood of patriots and revolutionaries flowing through our veins, and there's no question about it. If we can get back to the ideals. And I agree with what Glenn said earlier. I think the Constitution is the greatest document short of the Holy Bible that's ever existed on the planet. And if we can get back to ideals, away from personalities, away from divisions, and go back to where we need to be, where we can come together like America did in 1941 after Pearl Harbor was was bombed. And guess what? We went from being the 17th in military might to in 1945 being number one. And the reason is because we came together. We came together. So maybe these statistics are true, but like you said, Stu, compared to what? I don't want to live in Rwanda. I don't want to live in Brunei. I don't want to live in Yemen. I don't want to live in these places where I have to fear for my life every time I walk down the street. I don't want to have to stop at a guard station every time I cross from one border into another like you would in West Africa, and here is some guy with an M16 tapping it on the ground like this, just kind of absent-mindedly. I remember the first time I went into a restaurant with dirt floors in West Africa, and the curtain was pulled back, and I'm sitting there, and I'm with this doctor friend of mine, and he says, I want you to bring me beef. And he pats his thigh. He says, this beef, not this beef. Don't bring me stomach. Okay? We don't deal with stuff like that. And then two guys come in and prop their M16s up against the wall. We don't deal with that in America. I'm telling you, you get out there, you see the world, and you're going to see that you're living in the greatest country on the planet.
I think we've all been taken to church. I don't think anything needs to be added to that. Let's take a break.
I love the argument. Well, the Kardashians have more than the average. The Kardashians in every country have more than the average.
We're dropping like flies here, but Chad, I still have you with me.
I'm still here. Either they want to get a head start on the weekend or the rapture happened.
Oh, wait, crap. I wanted to be in the other group.
Yeah, we're still here.
Really quickly, I know that, we discussed all of these ridiculous clips from the New York Times, and, you kind of took us to church earlier, and there really wasn't anything left to add, but I do want to harp on something. When I first saw that previous clip about, comparing us to developing countries, I'll skip over the corrupt elections because I could go off on that one as well. But when they brought up citizens mistrusting the police, I'm like, okay, I'm happy to call out bad policing when it happens, but how is it my responsibility, or how is it a reflection of the country as a whole that people have bad feelings about the police? Wouldn't that be also a big reason that they have these feelings, is because the media is blowing all of these big cases out of proportion? They're encouraging this kind of behavior? Yeah. Wouldn't that be a great reason that people mistrust the police?
Yeah. Do you have any idea how many Gestapo-type police states around the world exist where people actually do fear the police?
Right. With good reason.
Think of KGB-era Russia, which is still not that far off today, but think about that. I mean, these guys, you live in fear of the shadow of the long arm of the law, which was corrupted. You go back to pre-1941, pre-World War II.
Pre-World War II.
Pre-World War II.
10 seconds.
Yeah. Japan. They were rounding up people and performing experiments on them. I don't think you're living with that here.
No. Overtime still coming up. Just the two of us. Make sure to catch it.